So, you may or may have not seen the response that was written to the £1,000 mercury challenge issued by Kennedy and De Niro. Well, a paediatrician by the name of Daniel Summers wrote a long blog post in the Washington Post all about this. I'll leave a link to it below. It's a really good article, has all the evidence and gives all the reasons why there is no danger to vaccines. So what do you think the response would be? Well, instead we get an open letter to Daniel Summers from the Age of Autism. And who has written this open letter? Is it a scientist by any chance? No. It's written by a person called... There we are. Anne Danshell, I think that's how her name is. But she is the media editor at Age of Autism. So she's not a scientist, and she's not even a researcher. So why are we bothering? Well, in my original video about this challenge, I said they would move the goalposts. And oh boy, do we see some goalposts moving here. So, she begins. Dear Dr. Summers, I read your February 17th article in the Washington Post entitled, "The evidence for vaccine safety is abundant, that will be $100,000 please." In your strong criticism of Robert Kennedy Jr. and Robert De Niro, you are adamant that all science is on vaccine safety. You wrote, Kennedy offered $100,000 to anyone who could turn up with a study showing that it is safe to administer vaccines to children and pregnant women, with a specific call out to concerns about mercury. You cited lots of studies that support the safety of vaccines, both ones with mercury and the MMR vaccine. You referenced research from Denmark where the CDC doesn't have a lot of pull. She also fails to mention that there was one from the UK. Remember that. In addition, you said that thimerosal isn't even used anymore, which is true. The vast majority of vaccines used today don't contain thimerosal anymore. In support of the position, you cited the 350 health organisations who repeatedly reaffirmed the safety of vaccines and highlighted more than 40 of the most respected studies in an open letter to President Trump. As far as autism is concerned, you asserted that signs of autism can be found early in infancy, well before children receive more vaccines. Other studies have found that alterations in brain cell development related to autism may occur before birth. Quote from the article. Finally, you dismiss Robert Kennedy's plea that people show him that the science proves it is safe to inject mercury into babies and pregnant mothers as disingenuous, which it is, because it's not, as I said in that original thing, it is not a question, in all honesty, because they're going to deny it, and you're seeing this denial right here. Dr. Summers, let me first off say that your arguments that studies show that no link to what Kennedy's offer was all about. You are relying on research with vast ties to vaccine makers. The one from the UK, which you are forgetting, came from the Pediatrics, which was an independent study. It had no links. Why aren't you mentioning that in your response? I find that highly suspect. And even then, if it's coming from vaccine makers, they've still got to provide evidence. Their evidence still has to be peer-reviewed. And if they found that they've faked that evidence, which would be easy to find out once it's been peer-reviewed, because to be peer-reviewed, it has to be peer-reviewed by someone who has no financial or any links to that particular company, they'd be found out. And it would be very easy to prove, because you could go out and look at that study and say, well, we found this in our study, and it contradicts the peer review settings. It would be very easy to do, but that is not the case. You aren't interested in doing the hard work for it. Toxicity studies have never been done on either the mercury added to thimerosal or the aluminium used in vaccines. Yes, they have. The Danish research you cited as independent comes from Dr. Paul Thornson, a principal researcher who is under indictment for 22 counts of fraud for money laundering by the US government, having stolen $1 million in research funding paid by US taxpayers. How reliable do you think his work is? Pretty reliable, to be honest, because even though, yeah, he committed wire fraud, that has no bearing on his research. That doesn't even impact on his research, compared to someone else, cough, cough, Andrew Wakefield, cough, who did fake his research. And there is ample proof. So you are being disingenuous yourself in your reply. And what have I been talking about moving goalposts? I've shown this study to people before who immediately bring up, oh, he was convicted of wire fraud. This makes his thing suspect. No, it doesn't, because it doesn't have any bearing on his research. And his research has been peer reviewed. They haven't found any problems with it. So automatically you're trying to shift the goalpost and saying that, oh, this doesn't count, even though it proves to be the answer to your question. But you don't care. And then you, just to go back a bit, you said that never been done in the studies of the thimerosal. The Danish research thing says there's no problem. There have been studies looking into this. You don't accept them because they don't agree with your point of view. So you come up with outlandish reasons why they don't count. And yes, saying that this guy committed wire fraud, I don't deny that he did, but it doesn't have any bearing on his research. Then you go on to talk about vaccines. Then you go on to say about parents who've looked into the issue of vaccine safety see huge holes and lots of omissions. You fail to inform readers that as a paediatrician you have no liability for injuries resulting from administering vaccines. Doctors, along with vaccine makers, have been protected by federal law. You can't be sued. Yes, you can. There's even such a thing as a vaccine compensation scheme. Vaccine injury compensation scheme. Yeah, you can be sued, and yeah, you can get a lot of money from these things. And there have been genuine cases where there was an example of a child, which I think she brings it up. Yeah, had appalling. She had a pre-existing condition which the doctors were unaware of. It happens. It's a sad case, but it happens. And then you go on to mention, in 2014, the top scientist, the CDC, Dr. William Thompson. He didn't reveal this information. He was recorded against his knowledge for this information. That's the first thing. The second, he came out and said, yeah, I was wrong. And the second thing is he has come out and denounced Vaxxed for using his audio in that film. But you still go on and say that he's this incredible whistleblower. Why? Because you don't care about the fact that he says, no, ignore what I said, it was wrong. You just care about the fact that he said he was right and you agreed with him for that briefest of moments. You then go on to say, autism now affects 2% of our children. No one has been able to find a similar rate among adults, especially since adults with severe autism whose symptoms can easily be recognised. Where are the autistic adults? Well, I'll tell you why, and this is quite interesting actually when I looked into this. In America, if you have autism, then you are tracked up until your adolescence, and then they don't bother tracking you. So America has no idea how many adults there are in the US with autism. Now, Hillary Clinton had said in her campaign she wanted to do a census to find out this very information. So why aren't you campaigning for something similar? And you also make it seem as if adults can suddenly just come on with autism. I don't even think that's true. You have to be born autistic. You don't just suddenly become autistic in your adolescence. And you don't suddenly lose autism as you get older, as you seem to, imply. And of course, you then go on to say, oh yeah, this is the good one. Phony population studies are proof of nothing. We use population studies all the time. This is what I'm saying about the moving the goalposts again. Because there are population studies that have shown, yeah, it's impossible for this link, even if you just look at populations of people who are vaccinated and then who gain autism, it doesn't track with what you claim. So then you go out and have to say, oh, they're phony. So this is what I've said. Now, she said she looks forward to his response, and I look forward to his response as well, because if he does do one, I will bring it to you. But I don't expect him to respond, to be honest, because as usual, all these questions she raised have been answered before. This is the problem you have with anti-vaxxers, is they claim that, oh, it's all right, we're just asking questions. Well, you know what? I'm fine. Anyone is okay with you asking questions. The problem is you do not accept the answer. You are the person who is going 2 + 2 = 5 continuously. When you're being told that no, 2 + 2 = 4, you scream and shout and bawl and say it's fake or phony, or that the 2 is actually a 3, and that's the situation you are in. And I said, I'm sorry, but you are delusional and you are lying to yourself, and the people that promote this are liars. I mean, the answers are continuously given to them, and they still, fail. This would be like giving people answers to the test, and then failing the test, like 100% failing the test, and then saying that the answers they put down were true even though they'd already been given the answers, and then that the test was biased against them, or that the markers were biased against them. No. There's a deep-seated, really deep-seated wrongness I find about all this stuff when it comes down to it. And I find it quite disturbing, and I've done videos about that before, but guys, you're wrong. There's no other way to put it. A perfect example is she goes on about the Danish study. He put two studies in there. One from Denmark, one from the UK. Why doesn't she bring that one up from the UK? That's a perfectly valid reason and a question, but I'm not going to get that answer. I'll tell you that now.